Hey parents and coaches, are your kids using the right glove? The most important skill for youth athletes to learn is how to play proper catch. The problem is, most youth gloves are made with bad leather and are too big for small hands. They actually make it harder to play catch. That's why former Major League Baseball shortstop Kevin Smith created Cali gloves. Cali gloves are crafted from 100% Japanese kip leather and are the perfect size for kids. All Cali gloves come with palm slits, finger loops, and elastic wrist lacing that encourage proper hand placement, the right closing patterns, and give kids more confidence to go make plays. Cali gloves even allow parents to break in the glove without stretching out the fit. It's the glove Kevin wishes he had growing up, and the glove all his teammates want for their kids. Visit CaliGloves.com to learn more and help your kids play better catch. That's Cali Gloves, Kali gloves.com.
Welcome to this week's edition of In the Clubhouse with EMD Baseball. I'm Andy Kirikides, joined by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Keith Glasser. How we doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. We're going to dispel a myth today because I've seen it floating around on Twitter.
Mythbusters version.
Mythbusters version of
In the Clubhouse.
But I've seen it floating around on Twitter. Had some conversations with some people who I think are getting this rule a little bit twisted because of some of the recent NCAA rulings, granting some junior college fellas an extra year of eligibility. The 5 years of eligibility rule just got shot down by the NCAA. That seemed to cause a little bit more confusion. But at its core, the rules for eligibility in college baseball have not changed, right? We're past the COVID years. The JUCO guys got an extra year because of the Pavia case, the quarterback from Vanderbilt. I believe he's actually suing the NCAA again to try to get another year. So some of this stuff is in flux, but as it stands today, you got 5 years to play for. That's how it works. Junior college years do, in fact, count towards your eligibility. So if you're a junior college player this fall and you play this spring and you're fully enrolled, your clock has started. That your 5 years for 4 has started. So that has not changed. And I'm not sure why there's so much confusion. I think it's people kind of jumping on some of the early NCAA rulings and making some blanket statements that if you go to junior college, you get 4 years at the NCAA level. It's just not the case right now.
No, it's not. I think it's a little bit more of a mass hysteria, if you will, of seeing the ruling that you had, once Diego sued the NCAA and he granted the injunction, then the injunction, they kind of knew that instead of getting sued by every single JUCO player in the history of sports right now, they would just give the blanket waiver for that 5th year. I don't foresee it really changing because I think the 5 years to play 5 got vetoed and voted down. So I don't necessarily think that this is going to be something moving forward that's going to allow everyone to do this. I also think that, the argument in this case, and I'm not a lawyer, but it's you're trying to make this argument for a very, very small subset of people when it comes to NIL money and things of that nature. Like you're talking about SEC, ACC, and a handful of Big Ten quarterbacks. So, it doesn't, because there were, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but I'm fairly certain that there were a handful of baseball guys that tried this same route and they got shot down. Correct?
Yeah. There was one specific one last year with a kid who was at North Carolina and he went to finish up his years in Tampa and went to Tennessee. And I don't think he ever was able to play.
I do not believe he was. No.
Yeah. And you who are listeners, you can fact check me on that, but I think I got my details right. But yeah, some baseball guys have tried this And I think the argument around the NIL piece for baseball is even harder to make because there's just not nearly as many schools that are paying, substantial amounts. So, and I think it's kind of a broken argument, to be honest with you, because I think you run into a situation where, like, how far back do you go?
Right.
But we'll see what ends up happening with the NCAA. Like they've been way less successful in these lawsuits than they have been historically. Usually, if you try to sue the NCAA, you ain't winning. But some stuff has happened recently with the roster cuts and where student athletes have more power than they've ever had, which I think is a good thing. But as it stands right now, the eligibility rules have not fundamentally changed. Could it change in 6 months? Yeah, maybe. And if it does, we'll update you. But wanted to clear the air on kind of this JUCO idea of, well, if I go to junior college for 2 years, then I can go to a 4-year school for 4 years after that. And it's just not true.
No, and I don't necessarily know if that would be the best route, even if it was for a lot of people, right? Like,
yeah.
There's only so many of them in the country. So, and the you get into the, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but you get into what does that look like at some of these programs that, are not all funded that well. All of a sudden you have an influx of 70 guys. Like what does that do for you? Are you really developing in that scenario?
Yeah,
so, it's, if they were to change the rule, then, that's probably something that you have to weigh and kind of figure out. But, I almost see it in some ways of like a prep year in some regards, right? Like it could backfire a little bit if you don't go and develop the way that you might be able to at some place. But
yeah, and the other thing too,
this is all hypothetical.
Yeah, and then people also underestimate junior college baseball across the board too, which is another thing. They're like, I'll just go to junior college. It's like, well, yeah, there's some junior colleges that
pretty good.
Yeah, there's some junior colleges out there that you better be able to slang it.
You gotta be able to play.
Yeah, slang it, bang it, run. Like you better be able to do some stuff. So
any semblance of being able to get on that field.
Yeah, but it hasn't changed. Still 5 to play 4. If it does change, we'll let you know. But wanted to clear the air on that. Is like I said, I saw some stuff floating around on Twitter, and I talked to some guys that some different people that had questions on it in terms of what that actually looks like. So hopefully we cleared the air there. Anything else you want to add, Coach?
No, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Talk to you next week. Thank you. Thank you for listening this week. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EMD Baseball. If you want to find out what me and Keith do to help families and players navigate the recruiting process, go ahead and check us out on emdbaseball.com. Take a few minutes to check out our new online academy. I promise you'll get some good information out of that. Thanks again for listening. Check in with you next week.